Good day and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's ongoing coverage of the Civil War taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, we wanted to cover the ongoing fighting that was taking place east of Mekelle in the vicinity of Abala and Berhale up further up towards the north. So the information that we are obtaining is that fighting continues within the vicinity of both Berhale and Abala, which is further south. And again, this operation by the Tigrayan Defense Forces was in response to another operation conducted by Ethiopian allies, Afar regional forces that had entered the Tigray region. And in response, the Tigray Defense Forces have entered the Afar region with the intent of creating a buffer zone and strategic depth to prevent further operations, especially given the vicinity of hostile forces towards the capital of Mekelle, within about 20 miles as a bird flies. Now, with that being said, we have also received reports that forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces were on the move towards Samara, which would be the capital of the Afar region. This is Samara. If you remember, there was video footage of the Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of the so-called state of Ethiopia, being photographed with possible drones located at this airport. But again, this is a fairly significant supply hub for the Ethiopian armed forces. There could be a variety of aircraft positioned at this base, ranging from attack aircraft to even possibly drones. Now, what we have to look at is the distance that Samara is from some of the active combat areas in the country, and then at the same time, the distance over some very tough landscape with limited infrastructure to maintain supply. It is an incredibly hot environment. It can be an incredibly hot environment, one of the hottest places on the planet. So obviously very challenging to conduct offensive operations in an area the likes of this. So the idea that the Tigrayan Defense Forces has somehow made significant gains moving from Abala or possibly areas east of Weldia or Kobo towards Samara is probably not factual information. At this point, Military and Foreign Affairs Network cannot confirm that a move on Samara is underway, and from our understanding, the base of the fighting is continuing in the vicinity of Abala, near Abala and east of Abala, and then obviously in the vicinity of Berhale. There are conflicting reports if these two cities or towns have in fact fallen to the Tigrayan Defense Forces. We believe Abala is very close to becoming fully under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces at this point. Berhale is a little deeper into the Afar region. Not a significant amount, but obviously there is some fairly rugged terrain on the border of the Tigray region and then into the Afar region. So if we look as a bird flies from the Tigray border to Berhale, you're looking at about 12 miles. So not a great distance, but again, fairly rugged, and then facing possible opposition forces in the area. Could be for some slow moving, especially once the engagements inside of the small town of Berhale were to start. And again, it's a fairly significant junction with multiple bridges in the town or near the town, to the west and to the south, northeast of the town. So if the Tigrayan Defense Forces were able to control this area, it would be a fairly significant victory in terms of being able to prevent any ongoing offensive operations by either the Afar regional militias that support the Ethiopian government or the Amhara paramilitary militias. But that is the status in the Eastern Front. Now, we continue to hear about a fairly significant buildup of forces allied with the Ethiopian state, or the remnants of the Ethiopian state, as this nation fractures. The main force deployments right now are reported in the vicinity of Dessie. There has always been fairly significant forces in the vicinity of Dessie. I have heard other reports on other news outlets, other channels, other open source information, and some internal information that we have, that while there is a buildup, there has always been a fairly significant presence of Ethiopian forces in Dessie, and that includes tanks and armored vehicles. That presence has always been in Dessie and has been defending Dessie for well over probably about a month now. So while there is significant forces in Dessie, is this the onset of a possible operation by the Ethiopian state to move forces to the north and possibly threaten areas that have been taken by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, such as Mercer, Weldia, and possibly on up to Kobo? Well, we can't answer that question. So the possibility exists that the Ethiopian army could be preparing for some sort of operation to move north. And we can tell, we absolutely know that the Tigrayan Defense Forces are very heavily presented in the region. There are significant forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces north of Dessie, and they would be obviously looking to repel any operation by the Ethiopian forces in a move north. Keep in mind that since the Great Eviction occurred, in which Ethiopian forces were evicted from the Tigray region, and the battlefield defeats that were suffered inside of the Tigray region, the ability for the Ethiopian state to press any sort of counteroffensive, successful counteroffensive, to seize towns that have been claimed, like Gashina, obviously Weldia, Lalibela, and other areas as well, have been unsuccessful. They have been able to move into certain areas, but what we have seen, they have then been re-evicted and pushed back out of those areas. So they have not been able to, and when I mean they, the Ethiopian military, the Amhara militias, have simply not been able to perform a sustained offensive drive into areas currently under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. So again, yes, there are reports of fairly significant forces in Dessie. Could we see an operation? Possibly, but we have seen other operations in the past that have not performed as predicted. But we will continue to monitor the situation and report on ongoing events in this area. Another area of concern, it would appear that, at least from photo evidence that has been released from the region, indeed the Turkish state appears to have provided the MAML precision guided missile. That is interesting. Again, I had mentioned in prior videos that I did not believe that the Turkish state would overtly supply said missiles to the Ethiopian government to then utilize these missiles basically against its own people, or that is what many people see the Tigray region as part of Ethiopia. And it was part of Ethiopia. And if you use these precision guided munitions against the Tigray region, well, you are attacking your own people with some fairly advanced military hardware. Now, is that the fact on the ground right now? No, it's not. For all intents and purposes, the Tigray region, because of some of these activities, has separated from the what you would call Ethiopia proper, as have many other groups inside of Ethiopia as well, and that is why I identify it as a failed state or the former state of Ethiopia. But again, it would appear that Erdogan of Turkey is supporting the regime in Addis Ababa by supplying these weapons to attack persons inside of Ethiopia in this ongoing bloody civil war. Now, that is significant, as much of this hardware was created with the help and technology sharing by Western countries and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So, when these systems were created, again, no one envisioned that these systems that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization assisted in technology sharing, especially in terms of L3 Harris and the advanced optics that were given to Turkey to be able to operate these drones and to guide some of these missiles to their targets, would be used in a civil war taking place in sub-Saharan Africa. But unfortunately, that is currently what is happening. It would appear that Turkey is giving weapons to assist in one side to assist in a ongoing civil war. So that while unfortunate, is there legal issues with that? Well, I would say that individuals who are in opposition to this should reach out to their respective governments. They should reach out to the obviously the State Department. They should reach out to the Turkish embassy and issue some sort of protest if in fact this is occurring. I would imagine the United States State Department is watching this closely, and if we continue to see Turkish arms being supplied to the Abiy Ahmed regime, I would suspect that further economic sanctions would start to take place against both the Ethiopian government and also possibly Turkey as well. So we will continue to monitor this situation, and obviously it becomes even more complicated with in terms of the Turks supplying these weapon systems to foreign actors that obviously are not part of NATO. And I would imagine the United States could fear that some of this advanced technology that we have given the Turks, and then the Turks give it to other states, that the Chinese or possibly the Russians could get their hands on some of this equipment that is being utilized in terms of in a non-destroyed state, meaning they could get a full example of a fairly advanced system, reverse engineer, and then deploy it. Now, with that being said, the Chinese have the ability to create systems very much like the MAML missile, the MAML missile, but other actors, even such as Iran, could possibly benefit greatly from that sort of technology acquisition as well. So that is one area of concern. And then obviously the other area is how these systems are being used within the context of a civil war attack on an internal entity of Ethiopia, or it was an internal entity at one point. That would appear to be have ended as of several months ago. But that is what the information that we currently have on the drones. And obviously, it would appear that they're being used. It would appear, though, they're probably not being used in the amounts that would successfully change the course of the conflict, and I talked about that in a previous video, but we will continue to watch and see how these systems are being deployed and how many of these systems are actively being utilized by the Ethiopian military. We continue to see the fragmenting of the former state of Ethiopia. We continue to see coalitions of forces, coalitions of peoples that have a desire for self-determination, that they believe that the Prosperity Party and Abiy Ahmed is acting in a despotic manner. They are seeking alliances with other despotic regimes, such as the regime in Eritrea, who has overtly declared that the election process will not occur inside of Eritrea, and many of the same things that are going on inside of Ethiopia are now reminiscent of the activity that occurs inside of Eritrea. So I'll give you an example. Recently there was a protest in Addis Ababa, and these were Oromo people protesting the central government, the Prosperity Party of Abiy Ahmed. They were yelling, "Down, down, Abiy." We have received intelligence that many of those persons videotaped in that video have since disappeared. We've also received, and this is very disturbing, the person who simply videotaped, the journalist who videotaped this activity that was going on inside of Addis Ababa, was also disappeared. And we believe he is in a Ethiopian dungeon somewhere, being tortured and interrogated for his actions and the perceived actions by the despotic government of the Ethiopian state, who continues to crack down on any form of dissent. And I would not really describe that as dissent, but just simply recording an actual event that took place is now a crime. And that should be a concern for anyone living inside of Addis Ababa, as anything you do, you are now possibly at risk of possibly being incarcerated if the governing body of the Prosperity Party and Abiy Ahmed does not like what you stated or said. So something that should concern, obviously, any freedom-loving person. But we will continue to keep an eye on that situation as well and report. We are watching closely for events near Dessie, and then obviously the ongoing events in the Afar region as well, and we shall continue to report. Have a good day, everyone.